So let's go back a little bit because there's a mosaic composite or a cement composite that is about my father and being of the Kohanic family, of being of the priestly class, and he took that very seriously. He was brought up to be a rabbi, but was uninterested in the rabbinic trade. He was more interested in the new world of the time, engineering, automation, cars, fast cars, mechanics. And so he became an electrical and mechanical engineer. He actually studied at Drexel. But he had wide interests. He was interested in photography. He actually was supporting his family during the Depression with his photographic work in Atlantic City, just walking the boardwalk and taking photographs of people. And he retained his knowledge of the Torah and his ability to daven, which was very important to him and impossible for me. I mean, I'm pretty much tone deaf, and I didn't have a singing voice or the desire to, and I'm not very good with languages either. But he was, and he blessed the people every year at the high holidays. He blew the shofar and he put the tallis over his head, and he made the hand signs, those mysterious hand signs of the rabbinic and Kohanic tradition. And in his way, he blessed the people, and especially I remember him blessing the people in a large tent, because they were going to erect a new building for the Young Israel in Bedford Bay Synagogue. And we were all out in the tent, and my sisters were dressed in their finery, and so I represented that moment in time. And there is a piece of the puzzle that began this whole idea with Wendy of a show, and that was my intuition of the Exodus, of the people of Israel enslaved in Egypt and leaving Egypt. And I had an intuition about that because when I was a kid, we would always come to New Jersey for a large extended family Passover service. And I was one of those young people who were able to steal the Afikamen several times. And my desire was to get a prize for that, which was a farm. I wanted a place in the country, and everybody would look very sad because they couldn't provide the big prize that I wanted. Although we did get a place, Julia and I, in the country. And one of the reasons why that was a dream was that was my father's dream. He wanted to have a farm. He wanted to be self-sufficient, to grow his own food. He was an amazing man. He was also an early health food. He was into health foods, and I grew up on Walker Gordon, organic whole milk. I probably have a heart condition because of it. But anyway, my intuition came when I was working with cement, and I have a big cement pan that I had for many years a lot of difficulty in when I finished my cement mixing. I would then have to get rid of I have to get rid of the dross, the water that was at the bottom, and all of the extra cement. And I had for many years a kind of vacant street behind my studio, and I would just, in any way I could, dump it out into the street. Shh, don't tell anybody. But then they hardtopped the street, made a beautiful street out of it. I couldn't do that anymore. And so it was a real struggle to figure out how to get rid of the extra cement and the water. And one day I happened upon, and this is after 10 or 15 years of mixing cement, and one day I happened upon this way of doing it, which was putting a bucket that was the right size under the edge of the pan, and gently lifting the pan up so that the bucket wouldn't tip. And I realized that what I was doing was using my ability to leverage the pan with that bucket, and using the skill of leveraging rather than brute force. And suddenly a buzz went through my whole body, and I realized that it was not my forefathers that had gone out of Egypt. It was me that went out of Egypt with them. And I realized that because I was always poo-pooing the whole idea. What is this business of why do they say, it's not the original people that went out of Egypt, but it was you who personally went out of Egypt, as if I was connected by some kind of invisible string, or maybe it was reincarnation, whatever. It was me that went out of Egypt, and it was a vision that came to me not only because of the leverage, but because of a mysterious illustration in the Passover, what is it called? The Haggadah. The Haggadah that was the Maxwell House Haggadah. And we looked for that Maxwell House Haggadah, and maybe it doesn't even exist. But in that Maxwell House Haggadah, it would be around 1948, the Haggadah of 1948. Maxwell House was trying to sell coffee. I mean, and they used it as a public relations with the Jewish community and their kosher for Pesach coffee. And I would sit with my family as they would go through the rigors of the Haggadah, and I was waiting for that meal. But there were two things about the ceremony that were very exciting for me and part of my world, and that was the illustration. These little kind of orangey, red, brown illustrations. And one of them was an illustration of Egyptian soldiers, two of them talking, and this little guy in a loincloth that was putting up bricks, and you would see a pyramid in the background, and maybe two pyramids, I think it was in the background. He had about 5 bricks that he was working with. Now, the other part of it is the charoisis, which is the mortar for the bricks. That always was such a delightful taste for me that my mother would make enough for the whole year. And every day I would come home from school and I would have lobster tails, Campbell's soup, and charoisis. The lobster tails because my uncle was a fishmonger. And so we got frozen lobster tails for the whole year, because I was the firstborn, and I was going to be the Messiah, of course, so give him lobster tails. At any rate, that moment in time where I felt that I had left Egypt and gone into the desert with everybody else. And I would tell this story over and over again and get that same buzz, maybe a little less, but get that same buzz, because usually I would have students who were, some of them were Jewish, and they would get it. But then I was telling that story one day to a group, and I realized that I didn't want to leave. I was one of the ones that was recalcitrant. I didn't want to go and leave beautiful Egypt for the desert. So, but here I am in Philadelphia, which is like beautiful Egypt. It's an urban center, and I'm very comfortable in it. So I think we'll end there.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I could listen to you forever. Okay.